Yes, sis. Yes, put. Thank you.
Hey. Down.
That's the lady. The queen.
Thank you. You may take your seat. I now hand over this time to the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, Justice Priscilla Chigumba.
Good evening, everyone. Might I take this opportunity? Thank you, Commissioner Ndlovu. Good evening, everyone. Might I take this opportunity to ask all the commissioners of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission who have outstanding announcement regarding proportional representation to finalize their announcements before we go into other announcements. I will start with the commissioners on my right, starting with the Deputy Chairperson. If you have outstanding announcements, please proceed, or any other commissioner on my right.
I have absolutely nothing to add.
Thank you.
No, I have none. I've done my part. I've done my part.
So have I.
Thank you, commissioners on my right, commissioners on my left. Those who have outstanding announcements, please proceed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Provincial Elections Officer for Matabeleland North Province has, in accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, Chapter 213, Section 45C and 451, 145C, ascertained which of the duly nominated party list candidates for the province should be elected as senators, members of the National Assembly and members of the Provincial Council. The following persons have been declared duly elected as senators for Matabeleland North Province. Nyati Rosemary, MDC Alliance. Sinamapande Herbert, MDC Alliance. Ndlovu Phyllis, MDC Alliance. Matutu Togozile, ZANU PF. Mpofu Obet Moses, ZANU PF. Dube Alice, ZANU PF. The following persons have been declared duly elected as members of National Assembly for Matabeleland North Province. Buda Sibusisiwe, MDC Alliance. Lapote Mafoko Ruth, MDC Alliance. Ngube Francisca, MDC Alliance. Nkomo Male, ZANU PF. Masuku Elizabeth, ZANU PF. Mkandla Moli, ZANU PF. The following persons have been declared duly elected as Provincial Council for Matabeleland North Province. Ndlovu Caroline, MDC Alliance. Siachuma George, MDC Alliance. Ndlovu Sharon, MDC Alliance. Ngube Charles, MDC Alliance. Mutimba Chiratizo, MDC Alliance. Msimanga Dora, ZANU PF. Maposa Kabayezwe, ZANU PF. Ngwenya Sibongile, ZANU PF. Ngube Rapson, ZANU PF. Shoko Princess, ZANU PF. Thank you.
Good evening. I declare the above persons to be duly elected for the senatorial party list for Mashonaland Central Province. Muronzi Martha, MDC Alliance. Mavunga Monica, ZANU PF. Shiri Parents, ZANU PF. Tongogara Angeline Kumbirai, ZANU PF. Chimtengwende Chenamo Chikeja, ZANU PF. Chimbudzi Alice, ZANU PF. I declare the above persons to be duly elected for the Women's Quota Party list for Mashonaland Central Province. Majaya Basilia, MDC Alliance. Shongedza Elizabeth, MDC Alliance. Chibagu Gertrude, ZANU PF. Mashonganyika Dorothy, ZANU PF. Nambo Fereska, ZANU PF. Gezi Tsitsi, ZANU PF. I declare the following persons to be duly elected to the Provincial Council Party list for Mashonaland Central Province. Dokotera Sekai, MDC Alliance. Sam Mutonderai Petros, MDC Alliance. Masenda Chipo, ZANU PF. Mavangira Martin Mufiri, ZANU PF. Zonge Alice, ZANU PF. Mutake Snowden, ZANU PF. Chiponda Barbara, ZANU PF. Kamkombe Paul, ZANU PF. Chishaka Elizabeth, ZANU PF. Manyangeni Isaac, ZANU PF. Thank you.
The following people have been declared duly elected senators for the Maitland Province. Timvias Lillian, MDC Alliance. Komichi Morgan, MDC Alliance. Muzenda Veronica Tsitsi, ZANU PF. Moyo Sbusiso, ZANU PF. Mbowa Maybe, ZANU PF. Mavima Lawrence David, ZANU-PF. The following have been declared duly elected members of the National Assembly for the Midlands Province under the Women's Quota. Gojo Catherine, MDC Alliance. Mbodia Memory, MDC Alliance. Mutambisi Coleta, ZANU-PF. Shirishena Elina, ZANU-PF. Joe Perseverance, ZANU-PF. Nari Variet, ZANU-PF. The following have been duly elected members of the Provincial Council for the Midlands Province. Mashija Elizabeth, MDC Alliance. Masendeke Francisco Mudabani, MDC Alliance. Madzibire Lucia, MDC Alliance. Pepe Sedwell, ZANU-PF. Maswingise Catherine, ZANU-PF. Mupeperi Cornelius, ZANU-PF. Nanga Unis, ZANU-PF. Hobe Sheunesu, ZANU-PF. Maramidze Plaxedis, ZANU-PF. Hobe Kudakwashe, ZANU-PF. I thank you.
Is it back to me, Commissioner Dr. Moyo? Thank you very much, Commissioners. It is my singular honor and privilege to announce the chiefs who have been duly elected as senators. The Provincial Elections Officer for Midlands Province, in accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, conducted the elections and chose 2 senator chiefs for Midlands Province. The following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Midlands Province: Mkwananzi Zama Ntua, Chief Ngungubani; Ntabeni Milton, Chief Ntabeni. The following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Matabeleland South Province: Ndiweni Vuyani, Chief Nyanga Zonke; Matema Nkulumani, Chief Matema. The following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Matabeleland North Province: Siatawa Nkataro, Chief Siansali; Kumalo Mandlaka Zulu, Chief Matupula. Following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Masvingo Province: Chauke Felani, Chief Chitanga; Bwawanga Ranganai, Chief Nema. The following chiefs have been duly elected as senators for Mashonaland West Province: Pasipamire Peter, Chief Ngezi; Mbasera Abel, Chief Chundu. The following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Mashonaland East Province: Bungu Witness M, Chief Chikwakwa; Chikukwa Langton, Chief Nechombo. The following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Mashonaland Central Province: Nyabudzi Clemens, Chief Nembire; Chigwadzara Chinenza, Chief Matsiwo. The following chiefs have been declared duly elected as senators for Manicaland South Province: Shepard Chengeta Gundu, Chief Makumbe; Enias Mapungwana, Chief Mapungwana. With that announcement, I bring to a close all of the announcement regarding all of our constitutional requirements, and I would like to advise that as of now, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is now ready to begin the announcement of the results for the presidential election 2018. We will be announcing the results in terms of all our 10 provinces. At the end of the announcements for our 10 provinces, we will then proceed to announce the overall winner and to make the declaration of the winner. As of now, I would like to advise that we have the results for all of our 9 provinces, and that we have 1 province which is outstanding, and then the declaration, which we will be making tonight. Secretariat is in the process of finalizing the results. I myself, as the chairperson, as I previously advised, I am responsible for Harare Metropolitan Province, so I will commence the announcements with the results of the presidential election results for Harare Metropolitan Province. Then I will ask, when I am finished, the deputy chairperson to commence the announcements that he has on his plate, starting from my right with all commissioners on my right and then moving to the left. The presidential election provincial results and the results of the presidential election in respect of Harare Metropolitan Province are as follows. The total votes cast in Harare Metropolitan Province were 771,777. This is out of a total voter population of 900,728. We had a total number of rejected votes of 5,807 and the provincial percentage poll of 85.7 thousand. Thank you, commissioners. 85.7%. Busha Joseph Makamba of the Free Zimbabwe Congress received a total number of 1,007 votes in Harare Metropolitan Province. Chamisa Nelson Movement for Democratic Change Alliance received a total number of 548,889 votes. Chikanga Evaristo Washington of Rebuild Zimbabwe received 834 votes. Zapasi Melba, hashtag 1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, received 147 votes in Harare Metropolitan Province. Gava Mafumo Peter of the United Democratic Front received 148 votes. Hlabangana Kwanele Republicans Party of Zimbabwe received 345 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity received 652 votes. Kupe Tokozani Movement of Democratic Change received 3,019 votes. Maduku Love More National Constitutional Assembly received 303 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers Coalition of Democrats received 213 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni of Build Zimbabwe Alliance received 611 votes. Mafumo Chiguvare Tonderai Johannes Timothy People's Progressive Party received 97 votes. Mariacha Violet United Democratic Movement received 89 votes. Mambi Hove Divine National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans received 92 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front received 204,710 votes in Harare Metropolitan Province. Moyo Nkosana Donald Alliance for the People's Agenda received 1,577 votes. Mteki Brian Taurai, an independent, received 158 votes. Mugadza William Taoneji Bethel Christian Party received 572 votes. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa People's Rainbow Coalition received 1,688 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter New Patriotic Front received 219 votes. Mutiniri Ambrose National Patriotic Front received 208 votes. Shumba Kuzo Jirava Daniel United Democratic Alliance 222 votes. Wilson Harry Peter Democratic Opposition Party received 170 votes, and these are the results of the presidential election in respect of Harare Metropolitan Province. May I invite the Deputy Chairperson to proceed.
Thank you, Chair. A very
Good evening to all of you. My results are in relation to Masvingo province. Total number of votes cast, 519,372. Total voter population, 617,211 voters. Total votes rejected, 9,941. Provincial percentage poll, 84.1%. And the results are as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zimbabwe Congress, 2,508. Chamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 171,196 votes. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe Party, 2,381 votes. Zapasi Melba, Hash 1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 217 votes, 217. Gawa Mapfumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 352 votes. Sabangana Panele, Republican Party of Zimbabwe, 1,301 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 810 votes. Kupe Tokozani, Movement for Democratic Change, T, 3,017 votes. Maduku Lavmo, National Constitutional Assembly, 335 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 281 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 289 votes. Mapfumo Chiguvare Tonderai Johannes Timothy, People's Progressive Party, 218 votes. Mariacha Violet, I will read this again. Mariacha Violet, United Democratic Movement, 158 votes. Mambi Hole Divine, National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 775 votes. Mnamgagwa Emerson Lambuzo, Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 319,073 votes. Moyonkosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 1,708 votes. Mteki Brian Taurai, Independent, 411 votes. Mugadza William Tawonezi, Bethel Christian Party, 627 votes. Mujuru Joyce Taurai Roba, People's Rainbow Coalition, 979 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, 798 votes. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 600 votes. Shumba Kuzozirava Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 534 votes. Lastly, Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 857 votes. That would be all from Masvingo Province.
The result of the presidential election in respect of Mashonaland East Province
are as follows. Let me start by telling you about the total votes cast. 542,254 votes. Total votes rejected, 6,794 votes. Total voter population, 633,411. Provincial percentage poll, 85.6%. Then I'll read the votes for each candidate. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zim Congress, 1,681 votes. Chamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 189,024 votes. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 949. Zapa Simelba, hashtag 1980, Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 194 votes. Gaba Mafumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 204 votes. Hlabangani Kwanele, Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 734 votes. Kaisimuru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 590 votes. Kupe Togozani, Movement of Democratic Change Team, 2,296 votes. Maduku Lovemore, National Constitutional Assembly, 218. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 204 votes. Manyika Noangoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 186 votes. Mafumo Chikuvari Tonderai Johannes Timothy, People's Progressive Party, 112 votes. Mariacha Violet, United Democratic Movement, 105 votes. Mhambi Wobe Divine, National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 302 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo, Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 334,617 votes. Moyo David Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 1,166. Mteki Brian Teurai, Independent, 177 votes. Mkaza William Tawonezwi, Bethel Christian Party, 451 votes. Mjuru Teurai, I'll take that again, Mjuru Joyce Teurai Ropa, People's Rainbow Coalition, 972 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Democratic Front, 330 votes. Mtiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 308 votes. Shumba Kuzozwirava Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 274 votes. Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 366 votes. That's all, I thank you.
I will announce the results in respect of Matabeleland South Province. The total votes cast was 216,595. The total voter population was 264,185. The total voters rejected was 4,080. The provincial percentage poll is 82.0%. The results are as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zim Congress, 1,216. Chamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 90,292. Chikanga Everesto Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 1,335. Zapasi Melba, hashtag 1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 170 votes. Gava Mafumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 304. Hlabangana Kwanele, Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 1,085. Kasia Muru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 480. Kupe Togozani Movement for Democratic Change T, 4,698. Maduku Lovemore, National Constitutional Assembly, 249. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 215. Manyika Noah Ngoni, 222. Mafumo Chiguvare Tonderai Johnson Timothy, People's Progressive Party, 158. Maria Shaya Violet, United Democratic Movement, 209. Muhambi Howe Divine, National Alliance of Muhambi Howe Divine, National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 404. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo, Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 107,008. Moyo Nkosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 1,060. Mteki Brian Taurai, Independent, 255. Mugadza William Taonezwi, Bethel Christian Party, 509. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa, People's Rainbow Coalition, 808. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, 429. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 456. Shumba Kuzor Zwirawa Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 411. Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 461. That's the end for Matabele and South Province.
May I say thank you to the commissioners on my right and invite the commissioners on my left to commence with the announcement of their respective provinces.
Thank you, Chair. The result of the presidential election in respect of Bulawayo Metropolitan Province are as follows. Total voter population, 258,567. Total votes cast, 217,306. Total votes rejected, 1,901. Provincial percentage poll, 84%. Busha Joseph Makamba of Free Zim Congress, 497 votes. Chamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 144,107. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 364 votes. Tapa Simelba, hashtag 1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 94. Kava Mafumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 78 votes. Hlabangana Wanele, Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 442 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 320 votes. Kupe Togozani, Movement of Democratic Change T, 5,753 votes. Maduku Love More, National Constitutional Assembly, 81 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 60 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 104 votes. Mafumo Chikubare Tonderai Johannes Timothy, People's Progressive Party, 45 votes. Maria Chaviolet, United Democratic Movement, 65 votes. Mambi Wove Divine, National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 57 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Tambudzo, Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 60,168 votes. Moyonkosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 1,350 votes. Mteki Brian Taurai, Independent, 68 votes. Mukata William Taonezwi, Bethel Christian Party, 231. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa, People's Rainbow Coalition, 1,050 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, 133 votes. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 91 votes. Shumba Kuzozwiraba Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 118 votes. Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 129 votes. The results of the presidential election in respect of Matabele North Province are as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zim Congress, 1,401. Chamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 137,611. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 1,342 votes. Zapa Simelba, hashtag 1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 221 votes. Kaba Mafumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 404 votes. Hlabangana Wanele, Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 975 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 765 votes. Kupe Togozani, Movement of Democratic Change T, 12,776 votes. Maduku Love More, National Constitutional Assembly, 261 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 264 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 227 votes. Mafumo Chikuvare Tonderai Johannes Timothy, People's Progressive Party, 148 votes. Maria Chaviolet, United Democratic Movement, 267 votes. Mohambi Wobe Divine, National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 462 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Nambuzo, Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 111,452 votes. Moyonkosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 1,419 votes. Mteki Brian Taurai, Independent, 229 votes. Mukata William Taonezwi, Bethel Christian Party, 726 votes. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa, People's Rainbow Coalition, 1,170 votes. Munyandu Ritendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, 412 votes. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 502 votes. Shumba Kuzozvirava Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 558 votes. Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 570. I thank you.
The result of the presidential election in respect of Mashonaland Central Province. Total voter population for the province, 531,984. Total votes cast, 483,423 votes. Total votes rejected, 6,574. Provincial percentage poll, 90.9%. Busha Joseph Makamba of Free Zim Congress, 1,480 votes. Chamisa Nelson of the Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 97,097 votes. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 872 votes. Zapasi Melba of #1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 151 votes. Gava Mapfumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 232 votes. Labangana Kwanele, Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 861 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing of Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 383 votes. Kupe Tokozani of Movement for Democratic Change T, 1,557 votes. Maduku Love More of National Constitutional Assembly, 150 votes. Mangoma Eroton Steers of Coalition of Democrats, 187 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni of Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 139 votes. Mapfumo Chiguvare Tonderai Johannes Timothy of People's Progressive Party, 120 votes. Maria Chaviolet, United Democratic Movement, 110 votes. Mambi Hove Divine of National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 1,047 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 366,785 votes. Moyo Skosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 907 votes. Mteki Brian Taurai, Independent, 247 votes. Mugadza William Taonezvi, Bethel Christian Party, 421 votes. Mujuru Joyce Teurairopa, People's Rainbow Coalition, 2,616 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, 413 votes. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 373 votes. Shumba Kuzozvirava Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 254 votes. Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 447 votes. Thank you.
Good evening. I present to you results of the presidential results from the Midlands province. The total voter population in the Midlands province is 761,985. The total number of votes cast were 637,021 votes. There were 11,619 votes that were rejected. The provincial percentage poll was 83.6%. The results are as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba of Free Zim Congress, 2,774. Chamisa Nelson of the Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 255,059 votes. Chikanga Evaristo Washington of Rebuild Zimbabwe, 1,794 votes. Zapasi Melba of #Freedom Movement, #1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 262 votes. Gaba Mafumo Peter of United Democratic Front, 417 votes. Hlabangane Wanele of Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 1,404 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing of Zimbabwe Partnership for Prosperity, 1,077 votes. Kupe Togozani of Movement for Democratic Change, T, 4,664 votes. Madugu Lovemore of the National Constitutional Assembly, 335 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers of the Coalition of Democrats, 311 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni of Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 400 votes. Mafumo Chigubare Tonderai Johannes Timothy of the People's Progressive Party, 217 votes. Maria Cha Violet of the United Democratic Movement, 222 votes. Mhambi Hobe Divine of the National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 633 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of the Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 350,754 votes. Moyo Nkosana Donald of the Alliance for People's Agenda, 1,988. Mteki Brian Taurai, an independent, 401 votes. Mugadza William Taonezvi of the Bethel Christian Party, 774 votes. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa of the People's Rainbow Coalition, 1,163 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter of the New Patriotic Front, 658 votes. Mutiniri Ambrose of the National Patriotic Front, 581 votes. Shumba Kuzozwiraba Daniel of the United Democratic Alliance, 535 votes. Wilson Harry Peter of the Democratic Opposition Party, 667 votes. That's the end of the results of the Midlands province.
Good evening. I present to you the presidential elections or results of presidential elections in respect of Manicaland province, Moyo, as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zim Congress, 2,759. Chamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 296,429. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 1,835. Zapasi Melba of #1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe has 241 votes. Guva Mapfumo Peter, United Democratic Front, has 391 votes. Shabangana Kwanele, Republicans Party of Zimbabwe, 1,223 votes. Kasia Muru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 1,027 votes. Kupe Tokozani, Movement of Democratic Change T, 4,793. Maduku Lovemore, National Constitutional Assembly, 548 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 4,356 votes. Manyika Noah Ngoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, has 237 votes. Mapfumo Chiguare, Tonderai Johannes Timothy of People's Progressive Party has 219 votes. Mariacha Violet of United Democratic Movement has 247 votes. Mambi Hove Divine National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans has 627 votes. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front has 292,938 votes. Moyo Ngosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, has 2,508 votes. Muteki Brian, an independent, has 477 votes. Mugaza William Bethel Party has 838 votes. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa, People's Rainbow Coalition, has 1,279 votes. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, has 594. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, has 533. Shumba Kuzozwiraba Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, has 575. Wilson Harry Peter, I nearly said Harry Potter. Of Democratic Opposition Party has 659 votes. The total number of voters, voter population in Manicaland was 733,369. Total votes cast was 621,633. Total votes rejected was 10,221. The provincial percentage was 84.8%. That is all for Manicaland.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These are the results for the 9 out of our 10 provinces that we have at the moment. If I could just ask your indulgence to make the following announcement. For the election of senators to represent people with disabilities, it is hereby notified that after the conduct of the election of 2 senators, 1 male and 1 female, to represent people with disabilities, which was held on 2 August 2018 at the Rainbow Towers, Jacaranda Rooms, the following persons were duly declared elected members of the Senate. Timire Rejoice, female senator, Cooper Watson, male senator. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you note that we have announced the results of the presidential election of 9 out of 10 provinces, I will now kindly seek your indulgence for us to adjourn for approximately 60 minutes, whereafter we will come back with the results of Mashonaland West Province, which is the outstanding province, and then make the declaration of the winner tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you so much, thanks to those viewers watching us on SABC TV. Again, live from the National Results Center, working out by the commissioners. Where again, one outstanding province is still to go. We'll be back in 60.
Now we have seen the announcement of the different provinces where the ZANU-PF has taken the Midlands, basically, and we have back with us 2 analysts, Dr. Vusmuzi Sibanda, who joined me earlier, and we have Edward Mitole, who is from the University of Pretoria, and you are an Africa analyst. Now, during the process of the results that we heard going through, the one thing that you said to me was, if ZANU-PF, Emerson Mnangagwa, takes Bulawayo, that will be a very good indicator of the elections. Now, take us through that thought process. Why did you specifically think that? And looking at the margins, 144,172 Chamisa and 60,168 to ED. That margin, you said, is an indicator. And there it is. He's taken the Midlands.
Thank you, Lulu. Good evening to your viewers. It's clear because you can see that ED has already taken Mashonaland and other provinces. So we expected Nelson Chamisa to score landslide in his base, and the base is Matabeleland. So if the margin is very small in Matabeleland, in Bulawayo, it means that spells bad news for Nelson Chamisa.
How do you think this happened?
There are a number of theories, but
Give us 1 or 2.
You cannot analyze the Zimbabwe elections without emotionally disinvesting yourself from the contest. I've listened to a number of analyses from various commentators and political analysts who seem to be scratching the surface, who seem to be emotionally invested in the elections, who seem to be supporting one side or the other. And that cannot be very useful at this time, because I think you need to abstract yourself from the contest. There is a deeper analysis. And coming from the Pan-Africanist school of thought myself, I think there is a bigger agenda. You must understand that the rise of the security state is pretty consistent with the New Dawn. And this is happening across the African continent, from Egypt to Angola, to South Africa, to Zimbabwe, all across the continent. So this is a wave of the New Dawn, and it's going to sweep through the continent. So the elections in Zimbabwe are pretty consistent with the phenomenon. you know, the state capture, predation.
Can you just hold it right there? I'd like to bring you in, Dr. Sibanda. You've heard what Edward has said, and you were watching these results as they were coming in. Your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Lulu. I think, in my view, one of the most deciding factors in the Zimbabwean election is hunger. People in Zimbabwe are very hungry. And if you look at last year, towards the end of the year, like I was telling you that I was farming, you know, people were being given fertilizers. People were being given, you know, 10 kg bags of maize seed and all that. And sometime in February, you know, people were being given bags of rice from China. So the bulk of the vote is bought. In Zimbabwe, we practice vote buying and selling, and mainly by the ruling party. And the opposition party doesn't have, you know, that much resources to buy any votes.
Dr. Sibanda, let's just hold it right there. Time now for a quick break. More news when we return on the Globe as we continue with the rolling coverage of elections results taking place and ZEC making the official announcements in Zimbabwe.
The only way to pour the perfect beer, this professional barman would tell you, is into a glass tilted at exactly 45 degrees. Oh, bless you. Bless you, sir. Bless you again. Well, we'd say the perfect way to pour a beer is at this angle, straight into your mouth.
Get a case of Heineken 330ml Premium Lager Handies for only $229.99 from Tops at Spa.
Clientele Funeral Plans.
It's your final gift of love.
I chose a clientele funeral plan because it's affordable and suits my budget.
I chose clientele because they are an original. They've been around for a long time, and I know with them my family are in good hands.
I'm a farmer, and I'm a businessman, and I know a good deal when I see one. Clientele is a good deal.
Clientele is the name I trust.
SMS plan to 31043 and we'll call you back.
The bank is going down.
I'm angry. 2017 financial statements of VBS did not present an accurate account of the mutual bank's financial position.
We are not happy at all.
We had
a trust on this bank.
Because that's about 500,000.
So that trust is gone. It's gone.
Welcome back. It is 17 minutes past 11 p.m. Central African Time. This is the Globe on SABC News, and we continue our rolling coverage of the Zimbabwe presidential election announcement. As of the scene earlier on, well, we are still on a 1-hour adjournment. And now we cross over to my colleague Peter Ndoro. He's standing by with the editor, Africa editor, Sophie Mkwena, and of course Effet Musakiwa. A very good evening to you, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure you've been watching closely the results announcement, and I would imagine impatience is up in the air.
Simpiwe, thanks very much indeed for coming to us. Yeah, it's a bit chilly this evening, but I can tell you that a lot of people, depending which side of the equation you are feeling the temperatures rise or lower. I don't know, but yeah, the first set of results, 9 out of the 10 provinces have been announced by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and to help us try and unpack what they mean before we get the final results, I'm now joined by our foreign editor Sophie Mkwena and also our Harare correspondent Effet Musakiwa. Thanks very much for joining us. And let me start with you, Effet, because you've been covering this story for some time. You've been our man on the ground as it's been unfolding. Were there any surprises in the results so far?
Yeah, I think Matabeleland region is the biggest surprise for me. I would have thought the opposition would do better there, but surprisingly, actually, ZANU-PF got 1 out of the 2 Matabeleland provinces, and the one that the opposition got, the margin wasn't as great as I would have imagined.
Sophie, your initial thoughts?
Well, indeed, as I indicated earlier on when I was speaking with Ashraf on SAFM, I mean, when you look at how ZANU-PF performed in the parliamentary election, you can see that it is very difficult for whoever is the face of that particular party to win elections. I mean, when the party was campaigning, the person who was always at the forefront was Emmerson Mnangagwa. He was the face of the campaign, even though in terms of the electoral process here in Zimbabwe is quite different from South Africa, where you elect a party and the party decides who becomes the president. Here you elect a president directly, but at the end of the day, that particular candidate is the face of the party. And if that candidate, people don't like that candidate, or the candidate is not convincing, there's no way the party can perform well. When the party performs well, it's because of the face of the party. And I think even though perhaps in terms of percentage it might not be the same, but yeah, you can see the trend.
So, Effort, talking about the face, do you think that what happened in November last year changed the fortunes for ZANU-PF? We don't know what the final result is, but it looks like they've done really well.
I think it did a lot, because even if you look at the parliamentary, just like what Sophie is saying, ZANU-PF has attained more than 2/3. I mean, that's growth. They were previously, they didn't have 2/3 majority. Right now they do. And I think it is because of Emmerson Mnangagwa's approach to things. He has brought in some new energy, I believe, to the party. He has brought in some new way of doing things. I remember their primary elections, though they were chaotic, but at the end of the day, I think everyone was happy with the people that were finally ended up representing the party. If you look at the opposition, they ended up in some provinces, actually in some constituencies, fielding 2 candidates for the same party, which was actually a sign of disgruntlement in some constituencies. So I think the coming in of Emmerson Mnangagwa actually did good for ZANU-PF.
Sophie, a lot of people are going to try and analyze, was it a question of anything but Mugabe, or was it we really like the message that this guy is delivering?
Remember 2008, anything but so in South Africa. Come 2009, people were trying to push anything but it didn't work. 2014, the same, and it's slowly going there, but fortunately, perhaps the changes back home, you may see a different trend. But that's exactly what happened in Zimbabwe. It was anything but RG Mugabe. And you can see the results. And I think people are saying, yes, we still love the party perhaps, but we didn't like the leader. I mean, we want a new leader. And that was the message from those who were supporting ZANU-PF. And that played itself in terms of the voter turnout. When you look at the voter turnout, it has gone up. It means some of those who were supporting ZANU-PF decided not to vote in the past elections because they liked the party, but they didn't like the leader, And you know very well that the liberation organizations, people have this attachment and they believe in the party, the brand. But when the brand decide to field a candidate that is not credible or people don't like, the support base, they don't go to the polls. They sit at home. They don't vote for any party.
So both of these leaders had different types of shoes to fill. Nelson Chamisa was following Morgan Tsvangirai. The story for Emmerson Mnangagwa was slightly different because he, I guess, came with his own stature and his own story.
Yeah, true. I remember at one point I highlighted that this race, unlike in the previous past where it was about personalities between Robert Mugabe and Tsvangirai, this one was really about ideas. You see, I think the biggest weakness for the opposition was that Nelson Chamisa ate every opportunity, he would invoke Morgan Tsvangirai, bring back the past. Whereas Emmerson Mnangagwa was actually trying to run away from anything that was, related to Robert Mugabe. So really, I think that in itself alone actually brought the difference in the dynamics of how these how these two political parties actually went into this race and presented themselves to the people. And I think it also brought in, that vigor for the ZANU-PF, and some of the results that are already showing that, it brought new life to ZANU-PF.
Sophie, this is a story that you've been tracking as well for some time, and I just wonder, when you look back now, what do you remember as some of the key moments that has led us to this point?
Well, I remember very well when Effort called me and said, Sophie, change is coming in Zimbabwe in terms of what is happening on the ground. At that time, it was when the former First Lady Grace Mugabe attacked the generals and senior leaders of ZANU-PF. I remember at some point in time, it was at a rally, even head of communications, or you call it a permanent secretary in the presidency for communication, George Charamba, being a victim of that. And he said to me, trouble is brewing in ZANU-PF, something must give. And later on, I remember I was on my way to Addis Ababa during the AU summit. He said to me, the former president of South Africa is here in Zimbabwe. He's meeting with former President Mugabe, and I'm told the meeting will also involve the former the generals. And we have since discovered that it was during that time where it was tense within the ZANU-PF, and Mugabe on Sunday saying that at that meeting he indicated to the former president that he would want Dr. Sekeremai to be his successor, when people were saying it's Grace Mugabe. But on the ground and in the party, the view was that it looks like the former First Lady wants to take over. And he didn't help the situation either in terms of how he was conducting herself and, the language, And I think we then, later, the coup, or not the coup, clearly we have been covering the story extensively.
Effort, when you look at the whole country, the country in totality, there are strongholds, but it seems as if the strongholds for the opposition perhaps are not as many as before. And as we go into this last province, this last result, where is Chamisa going to have to get the results? Is it likely that he might get the numbers?
That's a tough one, Peter. But you see, the remaining province is Mashonaland West. This is a rural province predominantly, and it is also a ZANU-PF stronghold. This, I do not see Nelson Chamisa getting this province. As we currently speak, out of the 9 provinces, he got 4. He got Harare, which was obvious. He got Bulawayo. He got one of the Matabeleland provinces, and he also got Manicaland. But if you look at the difference in Manicaland, it's just about 4,000. And really 4,000 is not much. If he was to make ground, he should have received more. But I do not foresee him getting much from Mashonaland West. It's predominantly a ZANU-PF stronghold. It is. I know it is the home ground or the home province of the former President Robert Mugabe, but still we know it as a ZANU-PF province. It is predominantly, even if you look at the parliamentary results, the whole province went to ZANU-PF. MDC did not get much from that province, and I do not see Nelson Chamisa as the presidential candidate receiving much from that province as well.
Sophie, the international community is watching this, and they've been watching this race for some time now. Both candidates have travelled overseas, made appearances there, and perhaps the international community might have made up their mind even before Zimbabweans had a chance. What are your thoughts about who was more convincing abroad?
Well, truth be told, you recall that Nelson Chamisa visited the US, and that trip backfired big time. He went to London. Looks like he was not able to convince the investors. You'd recall the interview he had with a broadcaster in the UK. Also, he was not convincing. And you have a situation where Mnangagwa went to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. It looks like he was convincing. And then he went to the AU summit, also the AU accepting the changes in Zimbabwe. And then, of course, recently at the AU summit again in Mauritania. Now we're waiting. The General Assembly in September, he will be there. Whoever has won, whether Changarai, Chamisa or Mnangagwa, and at that platform, whoever is the president will have to convince the international community that he's ready to change Zimbabwe.
All right, final thoughts from both of you in terms of what happens next. Let's assume, given the numbers that we've seen now, that in probability it may be a Mnangagwa victory. What happens tomorrow morning?
Well, I think it's a continuous. You see, the country is divided. You have the rural voters who really showed their support for ZANU-PF, but all the eyes are on Harare. And you have got already the opposition supporters who showed their disgruntlement in Harare. So I predict a mixed reaction from the different sectors or from the different parts of the country. In the cities, you'll have a subdued, both Harare and Bulawayo, people will not be so happy or will not be celebrating as much as those who in the rural areas who will be celebrating. So it will be very much a tale of two sides. It will be mixed.
Well, I think the two leaders must work together to unite the Zimbabweans. The Zimbabwe problem is not a Zimbabwe problem, it's a SADC problem. The two leaders must work together. Whoever wins must reach out to the loser. The loser must be willing to assist whoever wins to build the country. It's about ordinary people. It's not about leaders, it's about ordinary people. And I think they have a huge responsibility to unite Zimbabwe. In terms of Chamisa, I mean, he's young and he can contest if he doesn't win. If he has won, he can continue to bring those changes. But I think they have to work together. What transpired yesterday is bad. It's bad. It's bad. And I think both sides must take a blame, starting with the opposition, taking people to the streets. There are no marshals. They don't have a permission to march. And then police get overwhelmed. I was there. I was outside. We saw it. Police were overwhelmed. And then you have the army coming in. The army is hard on the protesters. I mean, when you bring in soldiers, soldiers don't have rubber bullets. When they shoot to kill. And I don't know who issued an instruction that fire. So I think they have to undo this damage in the eyes of the international community for the sake of ordinary Zimbabweans to have a better future.
All right, so both of you, thank you very much indeed, Edward Mitole and Sophie Mkwena. And that's where we're going to leave it for the time being. Remember, there's still one province outstanding, and once that's announced, you will know who the president of Zimbabwe will be for the next 5 years as Zimbabwe, #Zimbabwe decides 2018. That's from Harare for the time being.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. That was my colleague Peter Ndoro speaking to us outside that results announcement venue. And we're still on a recess. In about half an hour or so from now on, we'll be getting more results announcement. That's actually one more province to go before the final results are being announced. But for now, let's go back to the main set with Lulu, and she's standing by with the panelists. Lulu?
Thank you, Simpiwe. Just, having this discussion as Peter and Sophie and Effort, the SABC team there in Harare during the, just after the official announcements and the wait, the 60-minute wait for, is it Mashonaland West? Now, you've touched on a few issues where you mentioned that democracy is not an African phenomenon. Take us through that. You both had your versions and what your thought process is behind that statement.
Thank you, Lulu. Remember that after gaining independence, Africa was supposed to renew itself immediately after gaining independence. But we failed to do it. And remember that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah warned that if Africa did not move quickly towards renewal, towards political union, then the former colonial masters would come back like vultures to pounce, recruit from within us, to serve, to continue serving them, to continue serving the imperialist masters. And this is what exactly has happened. So democracy, as we know it, this blueprint of democracy we borrowed from America and England, does not serve us because it continues to divide us. How many political parties contested the elections in Zimbabwe? Too many for our liking. That will not serve our people, because even if the opposition wanted to unseat the ZANU-PF, it was not prepared, it was not capable of doing that with about 22 political parties challenging the ZANU-PF. The vote was divided up. The vote was shared among the so many contesting parties, and there was no way, there is no way that MDC is going to unseat the ZANU-PF with such divisions amongst the ranks of the opposition. So I'm saying that to achieve the African renewal in our culture, in our politics, in our economics, we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to our founding fathers, the first leaders that liberated us from colonialism. You must understand that democracy itself is a Western concept, and it works in those European nations. Our culture does not permit, because as Africans, we have Ubuntu, which ensures that we are basically a communitarian people, a communitarian society. We are better as a society when we live in community, when we understand that I am because you are. So divisions and rebalkanization does not serve us, because what democracy does is to continue the rebalkanization, the divide and rule, which serves the former imperial and colonial masters.
Dr. Sibanda?
Thank you very much. I think that to a very huge extent, where I think we've got the biggest problem is understanding politics. I think I agree that, you know, the politics that we're practicing is something that's foreign to us. And when we look at the issue of constitutions that we are working on, the bulk of our people, I don't think that they have real grasped, you know, what these constitutions mean to us, you know, as individuals. Even from the moment we craft constitutions, you know, our political leaders go into our societies, they talk with people in communities and tell them this is what we want to do. And people just agree because they are following the political leaders. Let me give you an example that, you know, I think fits quite well in what is happening in Zimbabwe. You know, when the opposition said, if, you know, we lose this election, we are going to, we're not going to accept it. And then the opposition went on to say, look, we are demanding that this election, you know, result must be declared right now. Now, the people simply followed blindly. They did not look at the provisions, the mere fact that, you know what, ZEC has got 5 days within which it can, you know, I mean, announce those results. Exactly. Yes. So at the end of the day, people just follow the political leaders. And political leaders, in the bulk of the cases in Africa, take advantage, you know, of the followers. So the followers, the general population, is really much unaware of themselves and what they've gotten themselves in terms of, you know, the constitution, in terms of political education. Now, Africa, I think, like what Dr. Mia was saying here, that as it stands, we had a change from, you know, the monarchs, you know, what we're used to, you know, the concept of Ubuntu that says, look, we cannot ordinarily challenge, you know, our elderly people, even if in some cases they are wrong. You don't really become very vibrant and start saying, no, but you're wrong. I don't agree. I think you're being corrupt. So what we have is, we have got an issue that says, now we've got a lot of cultures that are coming into Africa, cultural practices, especially the Western culture that has come in, that we are trying to adopt politically and, you know, in our societies. And we are not yet there. So we need to get there. We need that education to realize that, look, We have adopted these cultures in terms of our politics, in terms of our societies. Now, can we stand up and quickly learn so that we can really live within this society, especially politically, so that we know what the Constitution means?
Now, do you think the MDC and ZANU-PF will accept the results, the final results that we are waiting for in terms of Mashonaland West, which is still being verified? Will they accept the results?
Unfortunately, I don't think that MDC will accept the results, because clearly it shows that ZANU-PF is already making gains in predominantly MDC stronghold. This is quite worrying for the MDC. Remember that ZANU-PF is already playing in the MDC field. The former party of the left, which is ZANU-PF, is already far right. It has appropriated MDC rhetoric. Zimbabwe is open for business. It has appropriated all the shenanigans and propaganda of the MDC. After the departure of Morgan Tsvangirai, we see that MDC is apparently leaderless. There is a lot of political immaturity that is happening within the ranks of the MDC alliance. And this is quite a worrisome development.
How do they get it right moving forward?
I think at this particular stage, what the MDC has done is, I think they've shot themselves in the foot, especially with the pronouncement that they made, prior, just running towards the elections and all that, yes. Because what is happening is that now, whether they want to accept or not accept, but it's not going to mean much, because one, there's been violence, vehicles were burned, shops, were looted and stoned, and the leaders, made those serious pronouncements, and they did not, I think it was 2 days ago when ZEC said they did not receive any official complaint, about, the elections, that there was something wrong. So now their only, recourse would be to go to the courts, to say, look, this is what we are contesting.
Do you think they will go to the courts?
Well, I've heard, I think, that they are trying to get to the courts. But in any case, you must remember that the courts are purely, ZANU-PF courts in any case, because there is no separation of powers there. Now, and then the next thing again is, if they go to courts now, they're not going to be looked at, in a much more sympathetic way because of what they have been saying. So I don't think that there's anything. This one is lost.
I know you say it's probably in the bag. ZANU-PF is taking the election. Emmerson Mnangagwa will be president. But let's put a spanner in the works. Say Mashonaland West comes back and MDC wins it.
It's highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely, Lulu, because Mashonaland, as we see it now, it's a ZANU-PF stronghold. It's highly unlikely that MDC can take it, especially with the divisions that are there in the opposition. There are so many votes splattered around the opposition, with some smaller parties also sharing in the cake. So it's highly unlikely. And this is, I'm afraid Nelson Chamisa is heading for a heartbreak.
Do you think there will be protests, violent protests from the citizens of Zimbabwe?
I think, like I said, earlier on, I think what has happened now, especially the shootings that took place yesterday, it was deliberately done to pacify the population. Nobody is going to dare stand up now with the army in the streets, the tankers and all that. No one is going to dare try and go outside, because the army has shown that they are so heavy-handed. So people have been cowered into their little corner, and this is going to die another natural death, because once they have won the election and MDC tries again to demonstrate, it's going to be seen as an act of sour grapes. And I believe that the power theory also comes in. Everybody in Africa thinks that, ED is the man, he's got the power, the backing of the army, and who is SADA going to back and are you going to back? Can they back, Chamisa, who's not going to bring stability in the country because he does not have the support of the army? I don't think so.
Now, in terms of going forward, what does ZANU-PF need to do to ensure that Zimbabweans in the diaspora return home?
ZANU-PF has already started appealing to the diasporians. Remember that recently Mnangagwa was here in South Africa to appeal to the diasporians to return back to Zimbabwe and invest back in their country. So already ZANU-PF is playing that role. As I said, at 7 p.m., this is reminiscent of the Gorbachev era. Remember Mikhail Gorbachev?
Yes.
immediately turned his back on the Soviet Union and started implementing Glasnost and Perestroika. That is what Mnangagwa is doing. Those two policies were responsible for the fall of the Soviet Union. He is opening up Zimbabwe to foreign investors and diasporians. So it is highly likely that Zimbabweans will start returning home. But my worry is Zimbabwe is part of the international governance system. Already, the IMF and World Bank has already embraced Mnangagwa. This means that whatever Mnangagwa does as a dictator, the international community will smile at him because capital is prepared to work with anyone, dictator or not. Capital is prepared to work with the military juntas around the world as long as they serve the capital. Global capital is violent. Global capital is ruthless. Global capital is a bully. It will bully anyone.
But is Mnangagwa a dictator, as you call him? Is he a dictator?
If we look at, if we go back to the Blue Ocean document that was uncovered by Professor Jonathan Moyo in the run-up to the removal of Robert Mugabe, it's clear that he was being prepared to be a dictator. He's on top of the military. He's in charge of the military apparatus. It's a security state. You must remember that Zimbabwe is a security state. And the security state all over Africa and across the world is working with capital to unleash the violence of capital. So in Zimbabwe, as we speak, this maiming and killing of black bodies is pretty consistent with what is happening across the globe. You have to go to Syria. You have to come to South Africa, Marikana. This is the violence of capital. Capital doesn't care who you are. If you don't toe the line, you'll be isolated, ostracized, vilified until you toe the line. So Emmerson Mnangagwa has already been embraced by African Union, SADC, the international community. So already he has displaced MDC, because remember MDC came onto the scene to challenge Mugabe's autocratic regime. Tony Blair and George Bush were not fighting ZANU-PF, they were fighting Mugabe. He was the last stumbling block to the total recapture of Africa. Once they removed Mugabe, MDC is rendered redundant. Capital is prepared to work with anyone as
Dr.
long as
Sibanda?
you serve the global capital.
I think I really agree with the fact that capital is ruthless, and Mnangagwa is a dictator, and he's a despot, I think, in my view again. And if you look at the firing of Mnangagwa from ZANU-PF last year, Mnangagwa is the same person when Mjuru was fired who was singing and saying, in ZANU-PF we fire people. We will say so-and-so of so-and-so has been fired. And the same thing happened to him, and he fought. He could not allow himself to be fired. And constitutionally, by the way, Mr. Mugabe, President Mugabe, had the right to fire Mr. Mugabe in terms of Schedule 6 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, because the deputy president serves at the pleasure of the president. But Mnangagwa, showed that, I can fight my own battles, I am my own man, and I do things my own way. If it doesn't go my way, I will take it by force.
The support that has been shown to Emmerson Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF is immense. The people of Zimbabwe have made, basically making a choice. And so far, even without the Mashonaland West results that we are waiting for, ED is in the lead.
I blame Edward Mitole, the father of public relations. He's the one who coined the word propaganda. And propaganda is the enemy. Propaganda is what the media uses to brainwash and deceive the people. So we must look at all this. We must look at what is happening in Zimbabwe in context. The fact that Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF appears to gain popularity is pretty consistent with what is happening around the world. So the popularity has also been to be looked at into context.
Gentlemen, let's just hold it there for a moment. You're watching The Globe on SABC News as we continue our rolling coverage of the election results that have been announced, and we are just waiting for the final results of just one province, which is Mashonaland West. We will be joining you back just after a minute. Time now for a quick break. Stay with us.
We've been talking about funeral cover for many years.
One of the things I've noticed, is how different funerals can be across cultures.
But where they're all the same is that everyone wants a dignified funeral.
In my culture, there's a saying, "Ukufa umakoti wemizi yonke."
I like that. Death is a bride of every home. That means death can come to any family.
I chose the clientele funeral plan because it's affordable and suits my budget.
I chose clientele because they are an original. They've been around for a long time, and I know within my family are in good hands.
What is it that you want your family to do with the money when you're gone?
I told my family, I don't want a fancy funeral. They must come there for a cook sister and a sandwich, and then they must use the rest of the money for their future.
SMS dignified to 31043 and we'll call you back. Clientele funeral plans pay out in 24 hours. We will send you 200 Rand airtime when you claim. You can cover up to 13 people on one plan. Plans include grocery, unveiling, and transport benefits. 3 children are covered at no extra cost. What do you want your funeral to be like?
I would like my funeral to be dignified. My family and friends will still be sad, I hope. And my boys will be taken care of. I would like them to be educated because that's the most important thing for me. And that's where clientele comes in.
If you choose our ultimate plan, we will pay all your premiums back. Yes, all your premiums paid back on top of your cover amount.
Dankie clientele.
Kia leboha clientele.
Clientele is the name I trust.
Clientele funeral.
It'll be resuming any minute from now, and we do understand that we're only left with Mashonaland West Province in order to complete the full tally of the results that have been trickling in. But for now, I'm joined in studio by ZANU-PF youth member who's based here in Johannesburg, Gugu Ncube. Very good evening to you and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, did you vote?
Yes, I did.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, I feel so happy.
Okay.
I feel so happy. I exercised my constitutional right. I feel that I voted for the right candidate, somebody who is capable of leading Zimbabwe, somebody who is capable of bringing inclusion into the new government.
Yeah. What do you want to see happen in Zimbabwe as a result of you casting that ballot?
I want to see young people being involved in the government. I want to see women specifically being involved in the running of the country. I want to see women's rights being protected in Zimbabwe. I want to see jobs being created. I want to see Zimbabweans going back home with their skills. Every skills that they have acquired throughout the years, I want to see Zimbabweans going back to participate in the development of the country.
How long have you been voting for the party?
Since I was 18.
Over the past years, we've seen that women have been shunned from leadership positions. We've seen that young people have been shunned from leadership positions, but you still continue to vote for the party.
Definitely. I wouldn't say young people have been shunned from the positions. I'm a leader of ZANU-PF. I'm in the ZANU-PF youth leadership based in South African province.
Well, I'm talking about national leadership positions.
Yes, at national level, we're still trying to say young people should also be included up in the national, at national level.
Well, The former President Robert Mugabe's supporters have aptly described him as a fighter, as a maverick, as a political maverick, the one who doesn't go down without a fight. And the reasonable expectation would be that his ouster would have brought about blood on the floor in Zimbabwe. But then we saw a very bloodless coup, or soft coup, as it were. Did that give you some sort of a glimmer of hope into the next election, that it'll be as peaceful and free and fair?
Look, it actually shows that there is a difference between ED and Robert Mugabe. During the time, I know people will be talking about the Kukuraundi time and all the stuff. Of course, there was Kukuraundi, but people should bear in mind that it was during the time when ED was taking an instruction from Robert Mugabe. So it is actually unfair and less of a leader for Robert Mugabe to remove himself from that, taking the blame. Robert Mugabe should be in a position to take the blame. Right now, ED took over. We didn't see anything of that nature. If it was ED's nature to spill the blood, we're going to see that happening still. But we saw a very peaceful, free and fair elections where a number of political parties are involved.
So you are exonerating President Mnangagwa from all the blame that happened in Kukuraundi?
Yes, I am, because if somebody
is why? He's been former President Mugabe's right-hand man.
Being the right-hand man doesn't mean you're calling the shots. There is a difference between being a leader and being led. When you're being led, it means you're taking an instruction from somebody else. Right now, it is ED himself giving out the instruction. If anything has to happen from now, we are in a position to say ED has to come out and take responsibility for whatever is happening in Zimbabwe. But when Robert Mugabe was still in power, Robert Mugabe had to come out and take responsibility for whatever was happening in Zimbabwe. Because at the end of the day, there is only one commander-in-chief, not two, but one.
Since they were working as a collective, so they took collective responsibility, how can then you exonerate one unit of that collective?
As much as we think they are working as a collective, yes, they are working as a collective one way, but overall sense, they are not working as a collective, because basically they will all be the commanders-in-chief, but there is one person who has got the final say, who is the commander-in-chief. And during that time, it was only Robert Mugabe. Right now is President ED, who is the commander-in-chief.
These elections, do you think they've been free and fair?
Definitely.
How so? What makes you say that?
There wasn't any violence. People were free to cast their votes. There wasn't anything disturbing. We didn't get any complaints during the voting day. It's only violence breaking up after the elections.
Well, free and fair election is one thing, and a credible election is another. We've seen in this particular instance that the MDC leader Nelson Chamisa is a little bit of a pessimist, saying that a free and fair election is a remote possibility. And on the other hand, Emmerson Mnangagwa saying that, well, promising that he will deliver a very credible election. Well, we've seen, there's been an argument that free and fair elections has been a possibility in Zimbabwe because, first of all, we saw that all the parties concerned fielded a candidate of their own choice. And all the election campaign rallies were free and fair, were bloodless, were violent-free. Whether this election has been credible, well, I would leave that to the experts, because that would be a preemptive exercise. I want to engage you, though, on striking the balance between an election that is free and fair and an election that is credible.
Look, in my view, the elections were both free and fair and credible. The reason why I'm saying they were free and fair, because people were able to go peacefully and cast their votes. We didn't hear of any intimidations that were taking place. The reason why I'm saying the elections were credible, we are seeing the results coming out. Even though Chamisa is not happy with the results that are coming out, which to me, it's actually childish of him to actually tell his members that he has won the votes before the ZEC announces the results.
Okay, so you think it is actually credible?
Yes, in my view.
Even before the election observers have made an announcement to that effect?
I'm also an observer. By the virtue of being a Zimbabwean and a voter, I'm also an observer. And in my view, the elections were credible.
Okay, so what do you, moving forward, what do you see Zimbabwe become? What is your ideal Zimbabwe?
My ideal Zimbabwe is a Zimbabwe that is back to being the bread of the basket of bread again for Africa, seeing all the Africans flocking to Zimbabwe, seeing Zimbabwe sheltering, whether the poor, the rich, everybody going there, open for business, as much as Idi Mnangagwa has been announcing that Zimbabwe is open for business. That's my ideal Zimbabwe that I would love to see.
And the good thing about these particular elections is that all the leaders have been preaching one message and one message alone, that of peace. We saw earlier on, or maybe the day before yesterday, Emmerson Mnangagwa saying that, you know, he has engaged Nelson Chamisa about the possibility of peace in Zimbabwe. But then Nelson Chamisa says, wait a minute, peace? What peace talks? I don't know what you're talking about, because I've been trying to engage Mnangagwa I've made 6 attempts to engage Mnangagwa, and he's been avoiding me. That's the exact words of Nelson Chamisa. Perhaps President Mnangagwa is shooting from the hip.
I think Chamisa needs to come out clean. If he has been engaging ED for some years, what has he done? To what extent did he engage? If really he is of peace as he is claiming, why then is he inciting violence? Because if we look and analyze critically the source of what happened in Zimbabwe yesterday, it is all because of the opposition. The opposition just declared that they won, and by that they misled their supporters. And when their supporters did not get that winning, they felt betrayed. They felt that now ZANU-PF has rigged the elections, of which it was very childish of the opposition to actually do that before the ZEC actually announces the results.
So you do believe that the elections were not rigged?
I believe that elections have never been rigged, they were not rigged, and they will never be rigged in Zimbabwe. The reason why I believe so, if you look at the leadership of the opposition, it's all made up of the law experts. Show me one law expert that has looked at Tendai Biti, look at Welshman Nube, look at Nelson Chamisa himself. They are all law experts. Which one of them has ever taken ZANU-PF to court? They are all claiming behind graveyard that they've got evidence. Where is that evidence? If you've got evidence, we have been calling them to say, bring that evidence on the table, present that evidence to the court. And their excuse is that the courts are not neutral. They are claiming the courts are not neutral. However, the same attorneys, the same law specialists can represent their clients on a personal note in that very unneutral court. To me, it's very ridiculous.
When you started this conversation, you showed a little bit of fondness towards Robert Mugabe, didn't you?
I'm a proud member of ZANU-PF, and my vote is not a secret. I vote ED.
Okay, but you do have some sort of fondness towards Robert Mugabe. And if so, he made an indication that he is endorsing Nelson Chamisa. Would you be able to support that?
Look, I'm not fond of Mugabe. Mugabe overstayed his loveness in Zimbabwe. Look, Mugabe started ruling Zimbabwe before I was born. Now I'm doing my PhD. I'm a mother myself. Mugabe still wants to run Zimbabwe. That is really unfair. He must leave for other people to run Zimbabwe and give other people an opportunity. Let's see how it goes.
All right, we've got a caller. Apparently, they do have a question for you. Let's take our first caller all the way from Johannesburg. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for watching. This is The Globe. Hi, anonymous caller from Johannesburg. Are you still there? All right, we seem to have lost that caller, but then we'll try to re-establish connection with that caller, anonymous caller from Johannesburg, as we continue our rolling coverage on the results announcement of Zimbabwe. All right, let's now go back to my colleague Lulu, and she's standing by with the panelists.
Gentlemen, Simpiwe, before we bring in Dr. Sibanda and Edward, you know, it's very interesting that we were chatting with the analyst earlier about the youth involvement in this particular election, and listening and watching Gugulethu Ncube speaking very passionately about the elections and being able to vote and being able to cast her vote during the elections was very interesting. And I'll bring you in terms of, you know, your take on just watching Gugulethu and her chat with Simpiwe. What's your take on everything that she said? Especially on youth involvement in government, the fact that more women involvement in government, as well as her defending ED with regards to his role in the Matabeleland, massacre. That when he was questioned about it, he said that he doesn't want to open old wounds.
That's the power of propaganda, Lulu. As I mentioned, that our youth in Africa are disenfranchised, and this is the power of propaganda. The Silicon Valley, digital technology, social media, and all media conspire to ensure that our youth are denied information. Most of the fake news that spreads around is not something to empower our youth. It's there to continue the agenda and to serve the agenda of making sure that we are deceived, dislocated, and numbed into sleep, because we end up believing that whatever we see there is the gospel truth, which has made sure that our youth now cannot go into an election with the right information. With the right information of the candidates that are being paraded, with the right information of the policies that are being, vouched, with the right information of the manifestos. So we end up with a youth that is disempowered. That is what is happening. So we have Sophie, who seems to be a youth leader, but she has been denied information about what the ZANU-PF stands for. ED cannot claim to be someone who is going to empower the youth.
Can I just cut you off there and very quickly go to, we have a caller on the line, an anonymous caller who seems, rather his name is Tom from Johannesburg. Tom, good evening and thank you so much for joining us on The Globe. I'm told you have a question. Please pose that question. You want to speak to Gugu. Tom, are you there?
Yeah, can I speak to the analyst that was there now?
Okay, her name is Gugu Ngube, and she can hear you. Can you please ask your question?
Why she's taking a side of ZANU-PF, while it is the analyst on the social media there by the news is taking side, is saying it is already won. She must not analyze. Results are not yet out. They haven't finished.
That is utter nonsense.
Okay, we seem to have lost that caller, but just to throw it back to you, Simpiwe, you see you're there with Gugu, and Gugu, that question was posed, why are you analyzing and you have made your views known and your support for ZANU-PF known, and the viewer would like to know why you're speaking as an analyst.
Look, when you're analyzing, it doesn't mean that you have to hide your affiliation. I am affiliated to ZANU-PF. I am a youth member of the ZANU-PF. And in my view, it was really premature for Nelson Chamisa to mislead his followers that he has won. This is actually what has caused the violence in Zimbabwe. He should have waited for the ZEC to announce the results for the elections. I am trying to be as neutral as I can in this, under the circumstances.
All right, and that's Gugu Ngube's response there. We have another caller on the line, Tom from Cape Town. Tom, good evening and thank you so much for joining us. Well, it's rather good morning. Well, we seem to have lost Tom there on that line, but Gugu has given her response with regards to the question posed to her earlier on. And as we continue the rolling coverage, as we wait for the final announcement of the results of the Mashonaland West by ZEC, we continue our rolling coverage, and the two analysts with me in studio as well are Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda and Edward Mitole. Gentlemen, You heard the question that was posed to Gugu. Are you affiliated?
Well, look, I am affiliated to the Liberal Democrats, and I think I'm not sure if really the caller was saying it's wrong for her to give her views, in terms of what she's looking at. But however, what I want to weigh in on is basically what exactly Gugu said earlier on in terms of ED being a gun for Mr. Mugabe.
Yes.
I believe that we all know that in our systems we've got ministers, and ED was a minister, and when a minister does certain things, he is held accountable for that particular department, which is the portfolio that he holds. And Mnangagwa, I think at that stage, was in charge of internal affairs, and the backlight with him, it was his department. So we cannot run away from the fact that ED massacred over 20,000 Matabeleland people, and we cannot run away from the fact that in November 2017, when they took over from Mr. Mugabe, over 15 people died, though it was really covered, it was swept under the carpet. And we are also looking at the fact that just yesterday, 6 people already have been declared dead, and those people are killed by Mnangagwa. So look, Gugu says very well that she was born well after independence, and when she was born, the first word I think that she had or anything to do with governance was ZANU-PF and Mugabe. So that's all she knows. And I think I agree, with Mr. Muyai that, look, the propaganda has done its work. And what she is saying is exactly what she has been fed from primary school through tertiary education. She has been taught that ZANU-PF is the way to go. It was almost a one-party state. In 1987, the coming together of ZAPU and ZANU was meant specifically to destroy any opposition in the country, and so was the purpose of the Kukurawundi.
Now, just Dr. Sibanda, in terms of, you mentioned something there just now, and I just need to go back to it, the fact that the people who were killed yesterday, the 6 who died from their wounds yesterday, were killed by Emmerson Mnangagwa. The military was deployed.
Yes.
And he has been calling for calm, for peace, and for people to just be patient. And you make that statement when there's still investigations that are taking place.
Lulu, I think we've got these individuals that are sheep by the day and wolves by the night. You see, in Zimbabwe, in terms of the constitution of Zimbabwe, the deployment of the army in the bulk of the cases, the constitution is very clear that, that is the responsibility of the commander-in-chief. And, Mnangagwa is trying to be the nice man here. He's playing the nice man. He wants the observers and everybody else to say he is the good man. But Mnangagwa is the one who issued that instruction. And that is why, in the statement that he gave yesterday, he went straight to say that he was blaming the opposition, for what happened. Now, it has to be understood that, even if a person kills another person, we do not take the law into our hands. We never release the army into the streets. You saw the pictures, the videos, of what happened yesterday. I saw one particular video where a taxi driver was passing by. He was stopped and pulled out of the car, and the soldiers started whipping him. And the soldiers, manhandling people, kicking them all over the shore. That was a show of brute force in order to intimidate people, so that when the elections are going to be announced, finally everybody, cannot say anything, and they have achieved what they wanted to achieve. And Mnangagwa looks squeaky clean because he says, let us be calm. And he even goes on a PR process to say, look, I am reaching out to Chamisa. I mean, we cannot buy that. I mean, it's not like we don't know who we are dealing with here. We are dealing with this man who is very ruthless, whose actions he is covering, with his PR, project, of saying, look, I am a clean man. I want peace. Come and reinvest in Zimbabwe. I mean, he's just not clean at all.
And your take on this, Edward?
I still blame Edward Benez, the father of public relations, who coined the word propaganda. He was the mastermind of the First World War. He's still the mastermind of the Second World War. He's the mastermind of Palestine. He's the mastermind of Syria. He's the mastermind of all the crises we see today. Because propaganda continues to play a role. There is no way that the military would have been deployed without the instruction from the commander-in-chief. So this continued maiming, mutilating, killing of black bodies is pretty consistent with what is happening all over the globe. We will continue to see that. We'll continue to see Maricanas happening. We'll continue to see Tahrir Square, Cairo happening all over Africa. If Africans do not wake up to sit down and mobilize and recover their continent, we are a people that is lost because we seem to be playing catch up to the propaganda and the machinations of the enemy.
Now, gentlemen, let's talk about a way forward in terms of Zimbabwe, the rebuilding of Zimbabwe. The clarion call to the diasporians to go back to Zimbabwe and work the country, work the land, invest back into the country, and getting investors, for instance, the Chinese and other countries to come into Zimbabwe and rebuild this country. This was once one of the strongest and most economically sustainable and successful countries on the African continent for many years at some point. How does Zimbabwe get back to that point?
I think that one of the things that we need to look at right now is to say the ZANU-PF, as the ruling party, I don't think that it is capable of bringing any change or anything to that country. They will say what they are saying, but they will continue, practicing, patronage politics and ensuring that the top few people, enjoy the process of that country. In order for us to get to a moment where we need equal opportunities for every person in that country, in Zimbabwe, we need, I think, to do what I think, Amya just said that, Ms. Mja said that we need Africans to wake up. We need to have the kind of activism that says we understand that we have got economic rights, social rights, and we're going to stand up and say any government that we have, it is the government by the people, and if we're not happy with this government, we must prepare the necessary vehicles and machination that will ensure that once we are not happy with what we're doing in terms of the contract that we have with you, with the constitution, we're going to take you out. So in this particular instance, what it means is we need Zimbabweans to stand up and start to fight, for their political rights, and ensure that, the opposition, parties, for example, are going to come together and say, are we happy with the constitution? Are we happy with the level of literacy that our people have in understanding in political education and constitutional education, and empower the people? We need the mind that, the Henry Sylvesters, the Jabavus, the Pixel Kasemes had when they said, we have obtained a little bit of education. Now we need to make sure that all our people understand, and we need to use the law to fight the system.
Dr. Sibanda,
yes.
Let's just hold it there for a moment. We just need to go into just one of the stories there. We'll come back to you and continue this conversation. Now, in Zimbabwe, our reporter Peter Ndoro tracked down politician and legislator economist Eddie Cross, and he began by asking him to outline the main economic challenges facing Zimbabwe as of now.
The problems are pretty well known, and I think the solutions likewise. The problem is the political will to implement them, because whatever we do, it's going to be painful. You can't come from where we've been with the economic collapse in 2008 and now the stagnation that we've had for a number of years without severe problems. So the first issue, the primary problem of our economic problems, is the fiscal deficit. We're spending more money than we're collecting. And until we get that corrected, the overborrowing from the local market will continue, the shortage of cash will continue, and inflation is rearing its head. Inflation in imported goods is about 100%. Inflation in locally manufactured goods is about 30%.
So inflation in Zimbabwe locally, 30%?
Yeah. Many professional economists would say we're approaching the 50% level, which is hyperinflation. So the inflationary situation is very serious. So whoever becomes president has to tackle that. That's number one priority.
What do they do?
Well, the first thing you do is you try and fix the fiscal deficit. We're spending too much, we're not collecting enough.
Is that cutting the civil service?
The civil service is the principal problem. We have a massive civil service. At independence, our civil service was 67,000. Today it's 287,000. But it's not just that. It's all the people that are in the civil service without a job. There are perhaps 100,000, perhaps more than that. People who don't actually have a real job in the civil service, but who are on the payroll. That has to be rectified. Tough, very tough decisions.
How do we deal with the currency drama? Because we've got real money, US dollars, that people see occasionally. We have these bond notes, and then we have this electronic money that's kind of circulating as well. We can't have all of these systems operating at the same time.
Well, you can. It's the same in all. It's the same in South Africa.
Electronic maybe, but you can't have bond notes surely and US dollars and exchange.
Bond notes are currency.
Okay.
The bond note is just the same as the rand. Let's not beat around the bush. They call it bond notes, but it's currency.
Okay.
I think if you correct the fiscal imbalance, and I think the key to that is not just cutting expenditure, because that's very difficult. You can't trim the education budget. You can't trim people's salaries. The one thing you've got to do is to try and expand your tax base. We're a developing country. We have a massive informal sector. South Africa, your informal sector is nearly 50% of your GDP. Here, it's more than 70%. We're the most informalized economy in the world, according to the IMF. Now, we've got to be able to tax those guys. And in my view...
So let's just define what this informal sector is. So these are the vendors, these are probably engineers who used to work for companies that have set up their shops on the side of the road. And, you know, when we talk about 90% unemployment, that's almost a fiction then, really. All that's happened is that they're self-employed now, but are not part of a measurable economy.
That's right. Well, look at it. We've got 45,000 taxis. That's minibuses operating in Zimbabwe, let alone informal sector taxis. You know, there must be 100,000 guys running around in a taxi. Look at our traffic levels. This is a much bigger economy than is reflected in the official statistics. And I think the key to taxing that system is the electronic system transfer, which has suddenly dominated here because of the shortage of cash. And if we would tax that by a small amount, we could balance our budget overnight.
Okay, so every transaction, get a few cents from there.
Correct.
And straight to Treasury.
Straight to Treasury.
Okay. Give us a sense of what the true value of the Zimbabwean economy might be. What's the official level, and what do you think it is in real terms?
Right. Well, last year, in broad terms, our GDP was 19 billion. That's about the GDP of Bloemfontein. Okay.
Yeah.
Our national budget was $6.3 billion expenditure, about $4.7 billion of revenue, $3.7 billion of revenue, with a $2.5 billion deficit in the middle. My view is that the real economy is more like $50 or $55 billion.
Wow.
Instead of being 1.5% of the GDP of South Africa, we are probably closer to 10% of the GDP of South Africa. And this is reflected in our trade levels. We're your biggest trading partner. We buy from you about $500 million a month. That's $6 billion a year. And remember, we're buying from you industrial goods. We're not buying raw materials. Right. We're buying industrial goods. So we're a major generator of employment in South Africa. Where does all that money come from? How do we finance it? Goodness only knows. I'm telling you this, the bankers can't tell you. You have to go to the informal sector to find out.
All right, let's take a look at other news now. Passenger Rail Agency, PRASA, has been issued a temporary safety permit valid.
Yeah, there we go, there we go. Yeah, but what's the sound?
Senator Comey to come and give I represent my candidate, Nafo Chamisa, and as the chief election agent of the party. The results that have been announced have not been verified by us. I do not sign those results. So the results are fake. The results have been printed and they've not been verified by the polling agents. And we are the polling agents, we have not done that. Polling agents verify the results from presidential results are constituency-based results, and the constituency results have not been announced, and the constituency results have not been announced and not verified. We held a meeting today with the CEO, and we agreed on the process, and the process was not followed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think you've got our position.
And there are just some visuals coming from Harare where the ZAC was making the official announcement, as we see the officials there, but the MDC taking center stage for a few minutes where they were announcing that an MDC candidate who was basically stating that the results were fake. So we are going to, we're looking forward to getting the final results and exactly find out what exactly is going on there. Dr. Sibanda?
I think that's very interesting because, look, these guys have not registered any case, before this particular moment. And you come to a time when the results are being announced, and then you stand up and, you bring this kind of, a display, you say the results are fake. But they've got processes, I think they've got protocols, they've got reporting, measures that they've got to follow and grievances that they've got to bring forward. And if the results are fake, we'll wait and see, because then they'll be taken to court. But in
Edward,
case.
very quickly, as we see that one of the commissioners is taking the podium, and I think Commissioner Chugumba is back in her seat. Just very quickly, your take.
It's a continuation of the political immaturity in the MDC camp, because we see that there are tweets coming throughout the...
We'll have to cut you there and go through to Harare in Zimbabwe, where the ZAC is making the official final results known of Mashonaland West that we have been waiting for, that they needed 60 minutes, that's an hour, to finalize and verify.
Can I call the room to order? Commissioners? Commissioners, can I call the room to order, please?
It is a warm welcome. We are back. It is morning, and the exec chairperson as well as the commissioners are back with the final result. I'll hand over back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I ask commissioners on my left if there are any outstanding announcements that we have before the final announcements? Commissioners on my left, proceed with outstanding announcements.
Oh yes, there's an outstanding announcement with respect to the senatorial senators for Manicaland and the proportional representation to the House of Assembly for Manicaland. The following persons have been declared duly elected as senators for Manicaland province. Rambane Pasi Christine, MDC Alliance. Monzora Togara Sei Douglas, MDC Alliance. Chabuka Keresensia, MDC Alliance. Muchangwa Monica, ZANU-PF. Nyambuya Michael Ruben, ZANU-PF. Wara Zimba, Ele, ZANU-PF. The following persons have been declared duly elected members of the National Assembly for Manicaland Province, Women's Court. Karenyi Linet, MDC Alliance. Makonya Joyce, MDC Alliance. Chiururu Constance, MDC Alliance. Muchinguri Opachamu Zipange Kashiri, ZANU-PF. Chikuni Esther, ZANU-PF. Chitura Lucia, ZANU-PF. That is all of what was outstanding with respect to Manicaland province.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can I ask the Commissioner responsible for Mashonaland West to announce the outstanding results for Mashonaland West province?
The results of the presidential election in respect... Sorry. The result of the presidential election in respect of Mashonaland West province are as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zim Congress, 2,233. Shamisa Nelson, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, 217,732. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, 1,435. Zapasi Melba, hashtag 1980, Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, 202. Gava Mafumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 336. Hlabangana Wanele, Republican Party of Zimbabwe, 1,080. Kasia Muru Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 918 votes. Kupe Tokozani, Movement of Democratic Change, T, 3,000. Maduko Labmo, National Constitutional Assembly, 259 votes. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 267. Manyika Noah Ngoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 263. Mapumo Chiguvari, Tonderai Johannes Timothy, People's Progressive Party, 215 votes. Mariacha Violet, United Democratic Movement, 201. Muhambi Wobe Divine, National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 581. Mnangagwa Emerson Dambuzo, Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, 312,958. Moyo Nkosana Donald, Alliance for the People's Agenda, 1,540. Muteki Brian Taurai, Independent, 324. Mugaza William Taonezwi, Bethel Christian Party, 660. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa, People's Rainbow Coalition, 1,152. Munyanduri Tendai Peter, New Patriotic Front, 544. Mutiniri Ambrose, National Patriotic Front, 455. Shumba Kuzozvirava Daniel, United Democratic Alliance, 426. Wilson Harry Peter, Democratic Opposition Party, 572. The total voter population was 655, is actually present, 655,361. The total votes cast, 556,002 votes. Total votes rejected, 8,652 votes. The provincial percentage poll is 84.8%. Thank you.
If I could just say thank you to Commissioner Joyce Kazembe, who superintends Mashonaland West Province. That brings our results from the 10 provinces to a close. I'm going to say a few words and then I will make the declaration as to who has won the 2018 harmonized election results as a presidential candidate. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is pleased to announce that it has finished ascertaining the result for the presidential election and is ready to present it to the nation. Before I proceed to present the result, let me take this opportunity to thank the Zimbabwean population for the support and patience provided and exhibited while the Commission was performing its statutory duty. Let me thank all observers, both local and foreign, who responded favorably to our invitation to observe our elections. Your presence did not only contribute to a peaceful electoral process in the country, but also allowed the Commission to benefit from insightful views shared during the process, which enabled us to resolve some of the difficult situations that arose and which could have disrupted the smooth conduct of our electoral process. I would like to thank all my fellow commissioners and all the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission staff, including seconded staff who worked tirelessly throughout to ensure the success of the 2018 harmonized elections. We also wish to thank all of our cooperating partners for the sterling support rendered throughout the process, without which it would not have been possible to undertake some of the crucial activities in our electoral process. We would also want to thank the Zimbabwe government for providing both financial and other resources which enabled the Commission to fulfill its constitutional mandate. It would be remiss of me to leave out our sister commissions, the Chapter 12 commissions, the Zimbabwe Republic Police, for sterling work done, civic society organizations, all of whom our peaceful process would not have been possible if they had not assisted us. Last but not least, let us not lose sight of the fact that the election is about each and every individual voter. And I would like to thank each and every individual voter who took time out of their busy schedules to come and exercise their democratic and constitutional rights. We are, as a commission, humbled by the support, cooperation, peace and tranquility that characterized the 2018 harmonized elections. May God bless this nation and its people. It is my most humble wish that we as Zimbabweans should continue in this spirit, the spirit that we had on election day, and that we should move on as a nation with this spirit. I would like to say again that the Commission deeply regrets the events of August 1, 2018, which resulted in unnecessary loss of life. As Zimbabwean citizens, we can do better in future to avoid such blemishes in critical electoral processes. This can only be possible when we learn to respect our constitution and the organizations that we have established for ourselves to preside over our processes. We would once again wish to express our sincere condolences to those who lost their loved ones in this unfortunate event. May I say to my fellow Zimbabweans that it is time to take our place in the international community and proceed to announce and declare as follows. Whereas it is provided by Section 110, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, that where two or more candidates for the president are validly nominated, a poll shall be taken in each constituency for the election of a president. And whereas on the 14th of June 2018, 23 candidates were nominated for election to the office of president. And whereas a presidential election was conducted on the 30th of July 2018, and whereas the acting chief elections officer has, in terms of Section 110, subsection 3, ascertained the result of the presidential poll, and they have been given to as follows. Busha Joseph Makamba, Free Zimbabwe Congress, total number of votes received 17,556, which is 0.4% of the poll. Chamisa Nelson, MDC Alliance, votes received 2,147,436, which constitutes 44.3% of the poll. Chikanga Evaristo Washington, Rebuild Zimbabwe, votes received 13,141, which is 0.3%. Zapasi Melba, hashtag 1980 Freedom Movement Zimbabwe, votes received 1,899, 0.0%. Gava Mapfumo Peter, United Democratic Front, 2,867 votes, 0.1%. Hlabangana Kwanele, Republican Party of Zimbabwe, 9,449 votes, 0.2%. Kasia Muru, Blessing, Zimbabwe Partnership of Prosperity, 7,022, 0.1%. Kupe Tokozani, MDCT, 45,573, 0.9% of the vote. Maduku Love Mo, National Constitutional Assembly, 2,738, 0.1%. Mangoma Elton Steers, Coalition of Democrats, 2,437 votes, 0.1%. Manyika Noah Ngoni, Build Zimbabwe Alliance, 2,678 votes, 0.1%. Mapfumo Chiguvare, Tonderai Johannes, People's Progressive Party, 1,549 votes, 0.0%. Mariacha Violet United Democratic Movement, 1,673 votes, 0.0%. Mahambi Hove Divine National Alliance of Patriotic and Democratic Republicans, 4,980 votes, 0.1%. Munangagwa Emerson Dambudzo ZANU-PF, 2,460,463 votes, 50.8%. Moyo Nkosana Donald Alliance for the People's Agenda, 15,223, 0.3%. Mteki Brian Taurai Independent, 2,747, 0.1%. Mugadza William Taoneji Bethel Christian Party, 5,890, 0.1%. Mujuru Joyce Teurai Ropa People's Rainbow Coalition, 12,878, 0.3%. Munyanduri Tendai Peter New Patriotic Front, 4,529, 0.1%. Mutiniri Ambrose National Patriotic Front, 4,107, 0.1%. Shumba Daniel United Democratic Alliance, 3,907, 0.1%. Wilson Harry Peter Democratic Opposition Party, 4,898, 0.1%. Now, therefore, I, Priscilla Makanyara Chigumba, the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, in terms of Section 110, subsection 3, subsection F, subsection 2, do hereby declare that the votes received by Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF Party are more than half the number of votes cast in the presidential election. Therefore, Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF Party is therefore duly declared elected President of the Republic of Zimbabwe with effect from the 3rd of August, 2018. May I ask the Deputy Chairperson to give our final vote of thanks?
Thank you, Judge. On behalf of the Chairperson of ZEC,
may I call the room? May I call the room to order, please? Thank you. Thank you. May I call the room to order? Thank you.
Yes, as I was saying, on behalf of the Chairperson of ZEC, Commissioner Mrs. Justice Priscilla Chigumba, on behalf of the Commissioners and our staff at ZEC, I would like to profoundly thank everyone for attending this momentous occasion. We deeply appreciate your time. In particular, let me pay tribute and commendation to the good people of Zimbabwe for coming out in their millions to vote. Voter turnout was probably over 75%, and by all accounts, this was a resounding and unqualified success. We hope that the leadership of this country will find each other, close ranks, and take this beautiful nation forward. Let me pay tribute to the government of Zimbabwe for funding the electoral process. Let me also thank our employees, including those seconded to us from the civil service, for assisting in the registration of voters and conducting the election. With the registration of voters, we literally started from scratch, from ground zero, having discarded the old voters' roll. Indeed, they are our unsung heroes. I would like to thank our cooperating partners, such as UNDP, AU, SADC, AISA, IFES, NGOs, CSOs, and faith-based organizations for assisting us with a lot of material support. Their beneficial intervention is deeply appreciated. We wish everyone all the best in 2018 and beyond. Thank you very much. Tatenda Chaizo, Shabonga Kakulu.
In conclusion, I would like to say and advise all of our presidential candidates that the Commission will avail CDs which have all of the results from polling stations for each of the presidential candidates, and these will be availed by the Commission in the course of the next 2 days. So please kindly, Chief Election Officers, contact the Commission and get copies of the CDs with all of the results, all of the disaggregated data, and also to all Zimbabwean citizens, the data will be availed to you in the same manner as we avail the voters' roll. Thank you very much, and may I thank my fellow commissioners and wish everyone in Zimbabwe a good morning.
Thank you so much, Brother Justice Chigumba there. Thank you also for the words there from the Vice Chairperson of Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. That is Commissioner Emmanuel Magari. And thank you all to commissioners for a job well done. Also, thank you so much, members of the media, for coming through and raising us. Earlier on, viewers on SABC, you would have noticed that MDC Alliance Organizing Secretary, that is Mr. Morgan Komichi, and the spokesperson for MDC Alliance as well, that is Dr. Nkule Koswanda, invaded the commissioner's results announcement room earlier on. And that is it from here, the National Results Center. My name is Mayamo. It's been a pleasure bringing you these results and bringing you action here at the National Results Center. It's good morning, and see you next time.
Okay.
And there you have it. There you have it as we see the ZEC final announcement. President Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa has been declared the President of Zimbabwe, effective from the 3rd of August, which is today. Gentlemen, we've seen the ZEC Commissioner Priscilla Chigumba declaring there that making the final announcements with regards to the elections taking place. Zimbabwe decides 2018 and ED is the President of Zimbabwe. Your final takes?
I'm afraid that is final. There is no way MDC Alliance is going into the streets again to protest this, because I think by now Nelson Chamisa has a pretty good idea of how much and how long the military is prepared to go to safeguard that electoral outcome. So I don't think as a smart politician, he is going to rally his fans or his supporters into the streets again after what has happened.
Dr. Sibanda?
Thank you very much. I think we knew this was going to happen. General Chiwenga resigned last year from the army. SB Moyo and Parents Shiri, and if ZANU-PF lost today, Mnangagwa lost today, those guys would be without employment. So there was no way this election would have been lost by Idi Mnangagwa. They have done a very good job in cooking the election, and the election has not been, won by Mnangagwa. He has stolen the election, and Zimbabwe continues to burn.
Do you think there's any way that the opposition could challenge this presidential election?
They can. There are legal routes that they can take to challenge the electoral outcome. But I doubt if they are guaranteed an electoral victory via the courts. Because
sorry, just continue.
You must understand that the courts in Zimbabwe are also captured by the military. There is no way the military junta in Zimbabwe is going to allow any other result than the one we have just witnessed now.
A coalition?
I think that the challenge that can actually come up is the 0.8% with which Mnangagwa has won. Talks, I think, between 30 and 40,000, votes. So I think that the opposition has tainted its opportunities, especially, you know, with all the pronouncement that they made that they've won and, you know, the violence. But I think they could work harder to prove that maybe that 0.8%, you know, there's something wrong with it. So they could go to court if they could produce that evidence, and that's the likelihood that they can do. But coalition, there's no reason for any coalition. These guys have won, and they don't even want to look at, you know, the alliance. They're saying, guys, you lost.
Now, gentlemen, let's hand over to Simpiwe and Gugu Ncube, who has been smiling the whole time through that announcement process. Simpiwe?
Indeed, I have a very jovial looking Gugu Ncube here. She's been smiling all the way through. And the Gugu, well, there's no prizes for guessing how you feel right now.
Definitely. I'm so excited, so happy. But then I saw this coming. We saw this coming. We knew we were going to have it. We knew it was ours. We did so well. We've been doing so well. I want to say congratulations to my honorable president. Kutonga kwaro. Dokutonga kwaro ikoko. Nyagwe wakati zonda takavaorora.
Indeed, indeed. Well, let's talk about some of the concerns raised, particularly by the MDC, about the free and the fair and the fairness of this particular election. And indeed, some of the rejected votes, the number of the rejected votes was as high as 11,000 in some provinces. What could have happened there?
Look, we are used to opposition being crybabies of the Zimbabwe politics. Every time when there are elections, they are always crying that there were votes rigged, votes were rejected, this and this, but none of them has ever gone to court. I'm still going to raise the same point again and again. If you are going to be crying each and every year that you have been violated and you are not approaching the courts, then you are leaving us with a lot of questions than answers about the evidence that you are having. So in my view, opposition is just creating up a story just to send a wrong message to the international world.
So what do you think is the next course of action for the MDC? I mean, the courts is one avenue they will not be approaching because they've made it clear that they don't have confidence in the country's courts.
In my view, MDC is dead. Shamisa must go and grow up politically. The opposition is dead. They are no match for ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is what Zimbabwe needs. And ZANU-PF is what Zimbabwe has. ZANU-PF is what Zimbabweans have democratically and peacefully and fairly elected.
All right, please hold your thought. We now have to cross back to Harare in Zimbabwe, and my colleague Peter Ndori standing by. Peter, it's over to you.
It's gone. It's gone now. It's gone now. I can't hear. Right, so the results are in. The new president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, of course, he had taken over from Robert Mugabe in November, but he's now president on his own mandate, having managed to convince the Zimbabwean public that he is the man to lead them over the next 5 years. And he did that convincingly, winning by 50.8% of the vote. It was quite close for some, I guess, but what it does mean is that there will be no runoff in this presidential poll. To talk to us a little bit about that, we're now joined by Philip Chabata. Thank you very much for joining us. I can tell by the smile on your face that you're related with the result.
I'm really related with the results. Unfortunately, at this moment, our hearts and prayers are with the families that have lost their loved ones in that unbecoming manner which was caused by the MDC. But we are so excited right now that we now have our president who is elected by the people of Zimbabwe, and a visionary, a man that loves his people. And you can see this country is going to change drastically because the man is so focused. He's a hard worker that even Mugabe admitted that he's a hard worker. And we are so excited. It's just like 1980 again.
50.8%. It was quite close, but he got over the line.
Yes, 50.8%, quite close, yes. But considering what he has gone through and what he went through during the campaigns, and with Mugabe jumping the ship on the last minute, making serious announcements, confusing the electorate and all that, but still that's a big win. The majority of the Zimbabwean people have elected Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa to be our president for the next 5 years.
So we're hearing a lot of cheering behind us there. What do you think the people saw in President Mnangagwa that they went out in their numbers to put the cross next to his name?
You know, for me, is the man that God wanted to lead us at this hour. He might actually have been delayed because Mugabe didn't want to leave the position for a long time. I think Emmerson should have been the president. He's a visionary man, and he was clear in his campaign. Remember, in his campaign, he never mentioned any of the opposition. He never talked about Chamisa. He talked about what he was going to do, what this country is. Remember, this country is the third richest country in Africa, sitting on almost between 17 to 19 trillion dollars worth of minerals, and he is a clear-cut vision on how to turn around this country. We can't wait.
So in his campaigning, he was saying, you know, let me finish what I have started. How long do you think it will take for his vision to play out?
I believe the biggest challenge right now is the fixing of the banks. And if we can go to Zimbabwe, is a lot of gold. And with his vision of, he has talked about bullion bank before, I know that. And if we can go for a bullion bank and we can support our own currency with our gold, we'll go a long way, because it is on the currency, it is on the money, money that we need to fix. 1, 2, infrastructure. Right now, so many deals have been signed. So if these investors will come right now, this is going to be a jewel of Africa again. It's going to be exciting to be in Zimbabwe.
How does he bring the whole country together? Because 50.8 means that there's 49.2% of the country that voted for someone else. How does he bring those people together?
Yes, you know, in a democracy, you are going to have opposition. You see, it's unfortunate that in this country, our constitution says you should have 50 plus 1%. In other countries, for example, Malawi, the president of Malawi is running Malawi with 34%. Peter Mutharika, right. He's running with 34%. My president in the United States is running the country with less percentage in numbers than the one that is not running, that lost the election. So it is not about the numbers, but it is about the vision of the man. And also, I know that he has been, right now, look at him. He has not been insulting anybody. He has been actually being a father figure, and he has been a real statesman. And people were expecting that when he comes, he's going to throw people in the jail, he's going to do this. No, he did not do that. He's actually more conciliatory than our opponents. You can see from this election that it was the opposition that was actually trying to instigate violence. And he was saying no to violence. Even in the party, he has been a real unifier. Some of us were thinking since this group of people have been out, all of them must be taken out. He said, no, we don't deal like that.
What is ZANU-PF going to look like now going forward?
I think ZANU-PF is going to be the exciting party in the region. And I would want to appeal to our leadership that they need to now consider those people that has been suspended and people that has been expelled that want to come back into the party. I think ZANU-PF is going to readmit some of those people, and because ZANU-PF is a forgiving party, and our leader, especially the president, is a genuine liberator, is a genuine leader, and is a father.
You were talking about his conciliatory gestures, and we know that he tried to reach out to Nelson Chamisa in particular and the MDC leadership. Has he been successful? Will we see some kind of warming up, do you think?
I'm not sure. I'm not privy to that discussions and those issues. If he has been trying to reaching out to Nelson Chamisa, but the opposition, we need an opposition in Zimbabwe, but we need an opposition of mature people, not kids trying to crying foul in every step they can go. I think it is correct that we need mature people in leadership in our opposition.
Okay, Philip Chabata, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very
my
much
brother.
indeed. Once
Thank you
again,
so much.
congratulations.
Yes, thank you,
I'm
and
sure you're going to be
congratulations.
celebrating through the
Today
night.
we are going to celebrate. Tonga Kwaro.
All right, so that was businessman Philip Chabata explaining why he thinks that Emmerson Mnangagwa was so successful in convincing the Zimbabwean public to vote for him. And they did in their numbers. 50.8% was the final vote. And we're now joined by Justice Minister Ziyambi Ziyambi. Thanks very much for joining us. Congratulations on your victory. You must be elated.
Yes, thank you very much. We are elated. We are
So,
very happy.
your thoughts and reflections?
It was fantastic. I think the first thing that I want to say is I want to thank the people of Zimbabwe for voting for our president, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa. You recall that when he came in, he opened up the democratic space, gave people their liberties, preached the gospel of unity, peace, and every time that he stood to address the people, he would instill on us that there must be no violence. We are all Zimbabweans. We should campaign peacefully, and this has been one of the best elections that we have held since independence.
So you now have a 2/3 majority, 68%, and the question now might be, what as a caucus are you going to be doing for Zimbabwe moving forward now? You've got your president, the National Assembly is the one that writes the laws. What are you going to do with it?
I think the president has already set the pace. He said that the most important thing is to revamp our economy. He always speaks about the economy, and his mantra is we should open up for business and ensure that we turn around our economy. We are lagging behind with almost 20 years behind, and he is saying by 2030 we should be a middle income country. Our per capita should increase from what it is. So the main focus as we move forward is to look at our economy, ensure that the lives of our people are improved.
There's been over the years bits and pieces of legislation that really goes back perhaps to even Ian Smith's times. Are you going to start the work of cleaning all this up and getting legislation that is more in line with the vision that you're talking about now?
Yes, definitely. In fact, when the president came in November, we started that work. We started with the Indigenization Act. We were also looking at other laws like the Mines and Minerals Act. It was outdated. The Public Health Act was also outdated. So the work of looking at our laws and ensuring that they are up to speed with the modern world will be high on the agenda when we start our work in Parliament.
So you would have heard the suggestions made by the opposition in the lead up to this election process. You have won, and you've won it all essentially, but will you be, as a body, as a house, be listening to all sides and deciding the best for the country?
As ZANU-PF, we want to unite Zimbabweans. Even in our campaign, our manifesto, the first thing that we preached was unity, and we are going to try as much as possible to accommodate all the views, progressive views, regardless of where they are coming from. That is the vision that our president has, to say that we are all Zimbabweans. We may have different thoughts, but it doesn't take away our oneness.
For you personally, what is the quality that you most admire in your president?
For me personally, the quality that I admire most in him is his humility and his desire to ensure that as a country we are united. He has an amazing quality of forgiveness. Even when you feel like boiling up and say, why is he doing this? You find out that you always remain calm and you let bygones be bygones.
Bygones be bygones. Do you think that maybe, in the days leading up to this result, there were people that were going to be brought before the police and questioned. Are we likely to see a line drawn in the sand and a new day bringing a new order, a new reconciliation?
I believe that government is going to set up an independent investigation into the events that happened yesterday. And depending on the outcome of those investigations, that the way forward would then be found. So I would not want to preempt what will happen after that, but definitely the president is concerned by the loss of life that happened yesterday, and which is regrettable, and he would want to see an investigation being instituted, probably those that are responsible prosecuted, and Zimbabweans live in peace and harmony.
All right, I'm going to come back to your job now. Specifically, the Electoral Act is one of your pieces of legislation. Have you learned any lessons in this particular election process that you want to look at this act again and say, perhaps we need to tweak this? We've heard the concerns of the observers. Perhaps we need to look at this. Is this something you're going to review?
Definitely, what we are going to do is to review the reports of the observers and everything else. And if there are issues that we believe are pertinent and are worth looking into, there's no harm in amending the Electoral Act to incorporate that, so that we end up with a better election in 2023.
Right. Well, once again, congratulations.
Well
done. And we wait to see what happens in this next iteration of your party's work in Parliament. Thank you very much indeed, Minister Ziyambi Ziyambi.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so that was Minister Ziyambi Ziyambi, who's the Minister of Justice and responsible for, amongst other pieces of legislation, the Electoral Act. But we had an opportunity to catch up with the ZEC chairperson, Justice Chigumba. Let's catch you up with what
That was my colleague Peter Ndoro speaking to us live from Harare, wherein the ZEC has just declared President Emmerson Mnangagwa as the new president for Zimbabwe. And I'm still joined in studio by the youth chairperson,